was from Begin's point of view, that was the right way to behave, because Schindler was an important man in America, in the Jewish community, and was a leader of the reform movement, which Begin knew to be a big movement.
Mm-hmm.
However, I went off to America, and there were two questions that I had to deal with, that I dealt with. One was Begin, and the other was policy of the Likud, this revolutionary movement that toppled the Labour Party. And
when you went to America, you weren't a minister yet, you were just an emissary.
An emissary, yeah. I don't know how to tell this story, because some of it depends on the conclusions that I came to after many years. I don't went to that's fact. And as I was an emissary, I didn't want and I'm always prepared to save public money. I didn't go to a hotel in New York. I had friends in New York, the Bar-Ilans, David Bar-Ilan. I stayed with them. And I can say that while I was there, they acted as my secretaries. They saw to it that people who didn't have to see me, from our point of view, didn't see me, and others should see me, did see me. They were very, very kind to me. Saved me a lot of time. The telephone number that was distributed amongst such people was in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And, consequently, Beverly was on the telephone all day. Everybody wanted to talk to me. First swallow of the summer. Oh, I should mention that when Begin announced in an interview with Maariv the day after the election, 2 days after the election, that he was sending me to America. No, he didn't say me, but everybody knew it was me, because the journalist Goldstein somehow managed to make it known to run a blitz Hasbara campaign. The liberals, general Zionists, what were they called in those days? I got in touch with him and said, one man, who's the sketch? We don't even know who he is. And you need a more massive delegation, 12 members they want to send. Begin called me and said, what do I think of the idea? I said, you've got to decide, but you don't count on me then. You can count on me if I go alone, but not if I become a member of a 12-man delegation, because I know what has to be done, and I know all necessary facts. But in any case, I want to focus on me, not a diffusion of a dozen people.
Mm-hmm.
However, so Begin told these people that it's not on, and that I'm going. These people really not know what to say. Before I left here, the correspondent of the Newsweek came to see me here in my flat and told me that the editorial board of Newsweek would like to have lunch with me. We agreed on the Tuesday. I left here Thursday, and we agreed on the next Tuesday. And was the first, that was the first meeting that I had. I had an internal meeting. I wanted to consult friends as to what line I should take. I don't think they knew any more than I did. Barilan, Yossi bin Aaron, you know Yossi bin Aaron, and Professor Uri Ramannan, I don't know if you know him, professor in Boston, very, very knowledgeable man. This was the first meeting I had with people at all, and the next meeting was with Newsweek. And Newsweek had a very tough article against Begin, not as bad as Time. To see all the sins of the Irgun, of the terror, and so on and so forth. Not all of it, in fact, most of it not exactly true, because they had been fed from here, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to their building, and a big, they owned it, and they still own a big building in New York. And the whole board was there. I was the first man that they were seeing, and I thought it was representing when I came, everybody was sitting there again. I was wondering what the yeshiva vocal doing. And I said to the editor, what was his name? I can't remember now. Very formal tone. I said, Mr. So-and-so, when you heard what I want to say, you'll probably ask me to leave the building. But of course nobody told me to leave the building. And I gave them a harangue. I laid hell into them. How dare you write such things about an ally? How dare you write such things about a man who was just been elected as Prime Minister of an allied country? How dare you, how dare you, and how dare you, and how do you write this? I had taken with me the article that had appeared in Newsweek with an attack, with this attack on Begin. I've got it somewhere in my files, underlined in red. They sat there stunned. They thought I'd come and I would be very happy to be interviewed by them. But nobody interrupted me. I suppose I talked for about 10 or 12 minutes perhaps. And at the end of it, Kosner was his name, Kosner, Jew, said very gently, well, let's go and have lunch. I'll look into what you've just been saying. Maybe we made mistakes. And after I got back to Israel, some 3 or 4 weeks later, there was a kind of apology. There was a letter that they published from somebody who criticized them, and in the reply, they said that they were wrong about this and wrong about that, and exaggerating something. Exaggerated this or exaggerated that. I don't remember, but it was a sort of apology. Never had lunch. Now, having had this experience, I should tell you that on my arrival I learned that Yigal Allon was for a short while was foreign minister. There was an interim period there between crisis in Ravin's government and the election. And can't remember what the details were, but Gilbert was the columnist of the government during the election. He had sent instructions to the embassy and the Washington and the consulate in New York that I must be given aid assistance as an ambassador would get, which was very nice of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did get it. Two people that handled me. Posner is now head of some organization here. You probably will know it. I don't know. He had something to do with it, Hashem, I think. Anyhow, he's head of some organization. The other man, I think, left the diplomatic service. A man named Afirch. They gave me every assistance they could, and a guy named Rappaport, who was the consul in Tel Aviv in New York, was also absolutely helpful. He died a couple of years ago. Rappaport afterwards complained that he didn't have time to go to the toilet while he was working for me. It was probably true. He didn't know. So I asked Rappaport to arrange, I wasn't invited by time, to ask him to arrange a meeting with time. This went very, very differently from this week. I attacked him bitterly, more than used me because of the Bacon and Fagin business. And then it wasn't the editor, it was only one of the editors turned to one of the men who sat directly opposite from me, whose name was Pines. And in fact, he's a Jew, as I learned afterwards, whose real name was Pines, P-I-N-E-S, and a famous family in Jerusalem. When I was through, the man who was chairing this meeting, I think it was foreign editor or whatever, I don't remember his name, he turned to Pines and he said to him, "Well, Mr. Pines, what have you got to say to this?" Which made it certain that Mr. Pines had written the article.
Mm-hmm.
Pines, who was a florid man, maybe he still is. I could see while I was talking that he was exploding there.
Mm-hmm.
He said very cuttingly, "I didn't expect when I was invited here to listen to a Talmudic analysis of our policy." Now you know the various uses of the word Talmudic in anti-Semitic hands. But then this guy who chaired the meeting turned to a woman sitting in the corner of the room. She was apparently in charge of the morgue, in charge of the archives, and said to her, "What have you got to say to this?" And she said, "We have been attacking Mr. Begin for 20 years, and our material has all come from Israel itself." She says, "Nothing at all we've written, nothing that we've published has come from America." And so I was floored. What could I add to that? And that's Mr. Levy or Halevi, it's not Levine.
Yeah, I think it's Halevi. I think it's Halevi.
Halevi.
I think so.
Yeah. I met him once. He came to see me. I forget what he wants from me, I don't know. But whatever he came to ask me, I never knew because I didn't give him a chance to ask me. He said something like, "I suppose you think that I'm the scum of the earth," or something like that. And I said, "Yes." Some such short conversation that we had. anyhow, that was my encounter with him. Thereafter, I spoke and worked out that I had spoken or appeared a few weeks over there 140 times. Telephone interviews, television, communities. I spoke to all three conferences, the Orthodox, the Reform and the Conservatives. It happened at a time when they were all having these conferences. I went up to the Borscht, what do they call it? What's the name of the hotel?
There were a few of them, but I don't remember what the name of the hotel is. The Concord?
No, it's a begins with a G.
Grossinger's.
Grossi.
That's, go on, I'm sorry, keep going.
Right. And I've spoken all these places.
That's where I met you.
Huh?
That's where I met you. That was the first time that I met you.
Yes, at Grossinger.
At the Reform Convention.
That's it.
I had, at the time, we had a youth group called Concerned Jewish Youth, CJY, which later turned into Tzirei Cherut, but at the time it was independent. And Lelyveld, do you remember Arthur Lelyveld? Rabbi Arthur Lelyveld, do you remember him?
Rabbi?
I think he called himself a rabbi.
Lelyveld became the editor of the Times. That's the man I met.
So maybe he wasn't a rabbi. Anyway, he had just criticized Israel and criticized Begin. And so we went up to the convention of the Reform people, and like you in Switzerland, sneaking in the literature, we distributed to every table and every seat literature criticizing Lelyveld for criticizing Begin and criticizing his policies. And we put this on every chair, and we were going to leave very quickly before anyone found us and realized that, because we had gone as journalists. We had to Doti Tonaim, and we figured before anyone finds out that it was us, we're going to get out of there. And on the way out, you were coming in. So we greeted you, and I told you at the time how much your book, Battleground, was of assistance to us, and that was our meeting.
Oh, interesting.
In fact, I had you autograph the book for me.
Yeah. No, I was interviewed then by Joseph Lelyveld. I still have the article he wrote about it in some one of my files here.
No, this was a different Lelyveld. I think this was Arthur.
The son and the father.
Oh, okay.
The son, he was a young man then. And later he became editor of the Times.
Right.
Yeah. Now, what else was important there?
So, how did you get kicked out of the government?
Eh?
How did you get kicked out of the government? Now you're a minister. You've got
No, I'm not a minister. Now, in the article, in the interview that Begin had given to Maariv, the article that was written about it, he had said that he was sending an emissary to America and that he was going to open an office, a ministry for Hasbara. I'm not sure whether he said then that he has a good man he said there somewhere that he has an excellent man for the job. Whether it was for the job of the mission to America for the ministry, I don't know. But then everybody knew from that article that I was going to be the minister of Hasbara. I knew from Begin, because that's what he had offered.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had offered it to me, also I won't go into detail, but he had had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
He was recovering from the heart attack at the time. And he was staying at the hotel in Herzliya. Which hotel is the old hotel in Herzliya. And he had his usual gathering of friends on a Saturday afternoon, which I never liked, because there always were a crowd of sycophants coming to see him on Saturday afternoon. At any rate, I went there because he had said to me, we had talked on the phone about my going, and I had said to him, I want to talk to you about what I'm going to say there. He said, you know what to say. I said, no, but you're going to be prime minister, not me. And so we had agreed that I would come to hear what he has to say. When I met him, he was in the middle of talking to this crowd of people, and it took me 10 minutes before I could get him out of the crowd to talk to him. The only thing he said to me was that he wanted me to know that he was appointing Dayan as the foreign minister. I was shocked, and I said to him, Dayan, there's my panic. Surely you have somebody in Chirut who can appoint, and you can take the job yourself. After all, Ben Gurion also did that with the defense ministry. You can do it with the foreign ministry. You don't get assistance in doing. He said, no, I need Dayan because he's popular abroad. And I said, well, if you want somebody popular abroad, not Chirut, get Abba Evan. He's much better than the Dayan. He's much better speaker than Dayan. I'm not sure that he didn't think of it at the time. But he said to me, don't worry. Dayan will attend to the diplomacy and you'll attend to Hasbara. So there will be 2 to 1, which he wanted me to think that there would be he and me against Dayan 1. And it ended up it was him and Dayan and me against me. Now, I solved the Begin problem actually by the Wednesday. I came on the Thursday, so I should say this. I arrived in New York on the Friday, and I was staying at the Baribans, as I told you. And while we were having dinner, the Erev Shabbat, telephone call came from Washington. Mr. Dan Margalit, who I never met, was correspondent of Haaretz. And after we had exchanged civilities, he said to me, don't imagine that you will change anything here. I don't remember what I told him. We left it at that. There's a sequel to this, you see. When I went to Washington, first of all, the Begin problem was solved by a man named Skelly, who was the television reporter for ABC or NBC, I don't remember which BC it was. What happened at the meeting itself was, what had happened was that I had asked Dinitz on the telephone before I left here, don't speak ill of the dead, but generally don't give you facts, to call a meeting at his house, the embassy, at the ambassador's house, of the political correspondents of the newspapers. I said I would like to get that done as soon as possible, get that off my chest. I don't want to stay and see them all separately if I can see them together. When I arrived in Washington, on the evening that we'd fixed, that was the evening of the same day that I'd been at Newsweek, I discovered that whom he had invited, all the Mopiniks of, including the man who had been the judge, it was Judge Fortress, you remember?
Sure.
Fortress, who was thrown out.
Sure.
And so I gave a talk. I arrived late. In fact, the plane was late, and I arrived late for the meeting, which also had a sequel. And I gave a talk during which I took out of my pocket a map. This is a famous map, you probably know it, of all the Arab states. It's originally my map. I'd had it done here. And explaining to all these people that one of the crucial points in Hasbara, which I thought ought to be followed, is to show exactly who the contestants were here. What else I said I don't remember. It's a pity to go down because I could use that speech today. And so when I sat down, there was an outcry. You can't say that here. You mustn't do that here. The fortress was in the forefront. Dinners had invited him, even the fortress, from what I was told by everybody, never had any connection, never did anything for the Jewish community. So was the information was quite foreign to him, the whole idea was foreign to him. But he wasn't the only one. Everybody there who spoke attacked me and said I couldn't do this in Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
Now I told them, Dinnitz, when I arrived and discovered that there weren't any foreign correspondents there, and I thought one could possibly talk to the people in a more intimate way. I said I don't want any newsmen here. So there were no newsmen in the room, but they were all outside, and there was somebody who told them afterwards, didn't tell them what I'd said, but somebody who told them that I had been attacked by everybody. And Haaretz had a headline the next day, that I discovered much later, of course, that American jury rejects Katz. For some such verb, I don't know which verb they used, but it was attributed to American jury. So I don't remember what I answered him. And Fortas was almost crying when he said this. I think he really thought I was a danger to whatever he believed in. One of the people present wasn't a Mopainik. It's a man named Yועץ. He was a member of Congress. At that time, I don't think they've continued it, there was a kind of Jewish lobby in Congress. Do you know about it? Then they apparently met from time to time. Yועץ was the chairman of this group. Now, this was on Tuesday night. On the Wednesday, I went on the hill and I met congressmen and I met the 4 senators. Now, Yועץ invited me to come see him. When I came to see him, he told me I should pay attention to what all was said here. He said, tell Begin that any assistance he needs, or any advice he needs, he'll come to me and I'll do anything I can for him. He's Prime Minister of Israel after all. That's all that interests me. Beyond that, in the afternoon of the Wednesday, I had a telephone call from Arthur Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, please come and see me. Come and see me now if you can, if you get into a taxi and come. I'm busy. I have a busy schedule, but I'm very interested in talking to you. So I took a taxi and went to see Arthur Goldberg. And then he delivered a tirade against Fortas. He said, I was there last night, but I had to leave early and you came late. So I didn't hear what you said. But he said, Fortas, this man, you know, I brought him in, I got him the job on the court, and he betrayed us. He said he was engaged in some financial problems. I don't remember why he was taken off from the court. He said, practically word for word what Yועץ had said to me. He said, look, I've been a labor man all my life, but now we're talking about the government of Israel, and there it's my business to give whatever support I can to the government of Israel. Tell Mr. Begin that. And so Dennis's stratagem, it turned out quite all right as far as I was concerned. Now, on the Tuesday, must have been, I really don't know the exact dates, but then on that day, before I went to Washington, I had lunch with the columnists, group of columnists. Now, I knew that all the columnists who were there, except one that I knew of, were hostile fashion against Israel. The one I knew was George William. I'd been in touch with him quite often when I used to come to America. Actually, the first time I'd come to see him, I must go back again. I'd come to see him on the recommendation of Richard Pearl, and I wanted more contacts, and he was one of the contacts that he gave me. When I came to his office, he was then not a newspaper correspondent, he was then an aide to a senator from, I forget the name of the state, one of the southern states, southwestern states. You know, the name at the tip of my tongue, doesn't matter. One was a senator, he was an aide to a senator. And that day, or the day before, there was an advertisement in the New York Times, which I had placed. This is at the time that there were talks going on all the time about our withdrawal from the Suez Canal. Well, now this is important because it's a reason for my telling you that I dealt with the Begin problem on that day. Because that has to do with my not being a minister at the end. My mind is right. George Will, who had always written in our favor, very much in our favor, had written an article criticizing Begin because Begin had been photographed on Shavuot, which was just after the election that time. He'd been photographed carrying the Torah, and this had been described by some media as a sign that Begin was going to introduce a theocracy in Israel. That he was mixing religion with politics. And in fact, Begin as an ordinary Jew would be called up to the Torah to take it, put it back in the ark. Now, Will had been misled by that, and had written an article in which he said that he couldn't go along with the religion being introduced into politics. And so when I was about to speak at this luncheon with the columnists, everybody waited for George Will to attack me, which he did on this ground. And I answered, and in brief I explained to him that Begin on that day was not a politician, on that day he was just a Jew going to synagogue. And I reminded him that in all our talks, and we'd had many talks in the past, I had never raised or talked about the Bible as part of a policy. I said we have a much more modern basis for our claims, and that is the mandate for Palestine, which talks about our historical connection, which is the Bible. So so I don't need to refer to the Bible. And now after that, Will never wrote an article against Israel. To this day, when he writes about the subject, he writes in our favor. Now at this luncheon, everyone else who spoke, they spoke against Israel. At the end of it, a guy came up to me whom I hadn't noticed, he'd been there, and asked me to represent one of the television networks. Would I come out into the garden? This was in a hotel in Washington, for a little walk. And we went out, and he brought a photographer with him. And we went walking in the garden there. I don't know what we talked about. And he said it didn't matter what we talked about. What he wanted to see was a picture of our walking. And this picture was seen, I was told this by Jews, been seen all over America. They saw two ones. Again, this was a yeshiva looking kind of man with the correspondent taking a walk in the garden. And I was told time and time again, this changed the whole nature of the view or the expression of the new government in the Jewish community. A very important public relations man in New York, I don't remember his name anymore, but he told me this, said it rubbed it all out for us. You turned it all round. I wasn't saying anything, or if I did say anything, but the picture that this man had helped create, whether it was deliberate or not, I don't know. And that, I think, was one of the reasons, once that had been done for Begin, personally, that removed part of the reason for needing me as a minister of Hasbara. That's of course a conclusion I've come to. Because we had agreed that I would talk to him on the phone every few days, tell him how I'm getting on. And when I spoke to him a couple of days after my visit to Washington, he said that he's afraid that the idea of my becoming of being minister couldn't be achieved, because it was a committee that had decided that we could have only 12 ministers, and that Hasbara was not regarded as being important enough. So Mr. Begin could do anything he liked at that time with him on any subject. He was forced to abide by what this committee had done. When a long time afterwards, I asked the chairman of the committee, Professor Rom of the Chirut committee, whether such a decision had been taken. He never heard of it. He never heard of it, and of course they wouldn't have taken such a decision if Begin wanted 30, because as a matter of fact, a few weeks later they had 25 ministers with Dash. You remember Dash? Dash in the government. And so
you used to sit in on cabinet meetings. What was the title that allowed you to be in the room?
Advisor on Hasbara abroad.
And how long did you hold that job?
Well, it started in July, you see. I didn't want to accept it, but my friends in the Land of Israel movement pressed me not to leave. So it must have started at the beginning of July until the beginning of January. 6 months.
And how did it officially, in a couple of sentences, officially, how did it end?
It ended by my resigning.
What was the immediate cause of your resignation?
Of course, I remember. Well, I think it wasn't just one cause. You see, the whole policy on settlements had changed. Begin had allowed Weizmann, who was Minister of Defense, to throw people out of a settlement near Yericho. I don't remember which settlement it was. And you may remember that at one stage, at that time, the Americans had been informed, and this was contained in a cable that was sent by Dinitz, or to Dinitz, by Dayan or whoever. The Americans had been informed that the Israeli government would agree to having settlers confined to military camps. In other words, to destroy the whole settlement movement, and in fact to create a situation that would support the Arab propaganda that we were simply a military occupier. There were jokes at that time in Kusham that they'd have to buy nappies for the infants, khaki nappies.
So you...
I was privy. One of the privileges or duties that I had was to read the telegrams between the government and the embassy in America. And I had found this in the telegram, this conversation between Dayan and Lewis, the American ambassador here, where he had told him about this concession by Israel on the subject of settlements. Can you imagine?
So you must have gone to Begin and told him this, no?
When I got to him some days later, he had just been abroad. He had been to Romania. That's where the whole plot of the peace with Egypt started. And so I waited. When he got back, I waited till I could make an appointment with him. I never went to see Begin during that period, except when I made an appointment. I didn't ever go to his door and say, I'm coming in. I maintained a very formal attitude towards him. And so I came to him and said, what's going on? Just a few weeks ago, before you went to Romania, you said to me that you want me to draft a letter, another letter for Carter, explain to him what we've been explaining to him, that we have no right to prevent any Jew from living in the whole of the country. Something that I have told him about. During his first visit here, he had asked me, when he went to see Carter, he had the whole delegation, the whole 4 or 5 of us were there. He had asked me to make a speech, tell Carter who the Palestinians are, the relations with the land, what relationship there was with the land and so on. One day I was trying to get it out of the Foreign Office, must be on record, and the idea was, when we got back, Carter was actually running a campaign against settlements. The whole Foreign Office, the whole State Department. And so I came to Begin and said, what's going on here? And I was shocked. He said something to me which he didn't believe, couldn't believe. He said to me, these words, he turned a very cold eye on me, and he said, Shmuel, אתה רוצה קרע עם אמריקה? I said, what קרע with America? I don't see any signs of a break with America. We have a disagreement with them. And if there would be a Kera, we'd have to take it. We're not going to give up settling Jews in Israel because of it. that's an issue where you have to stand firm. He had no answer for me on that. And within a day or 2 or 3 or a week, I don't remember how, very shortly after I resigned, I was prepared to support him, which was, if not entirely against settlements, but as you know, settlements were not what should I say, the idea of the movement, the settlement movement was not promoted or pushed by Begin, but pushed by Sharon. And I think it was done quite a lot later. It took a long time before that happened. It didn't happen in the first months of Begin's incumbency. When I did resign, I went to tell Begin that I'm resigning, and he was appointing. Now, this is the funny thing, I didn't raise it at that time. I should have done thus it got into the government. And so the proportions in the government were such that he was now able to appoint another minister from Herod. Of course, the normal thing would have been to appoint a minister that he couldn't appoint in July. I mean, he was told only 12. And he wanted to appoint Lando, because I was already going against his policy. And so when I went onto the platform to speak after Begin's introductory speech, Sharon was sitting directly behind me when I went to the microphone, and he said to me, if you support, if you talk about settlements, like doing this, he just would, I'll vote for you. I didn't say anything to him that I need his telling me to speak about settlements. In fact, I spoke very little about settlements, but I spoke about it in a few words, ever. Now, that is the brief story of how I became anonymous. Is that enough for you?
Yes. Once you left the government, that was 1978. So
yes, on the 8th of January. Well, I left actually on the 31st of January.
Since then, you've been a writer and books and a commentator in the press.
Then I started my career as a columnist. The day after the vote, when Begin defeated me by 300 to 200, you know, he had threatened to resign if I won the debate. Did you know that?
No.
There were 700 people in the hall that evening. 200 didn't vote because he threatened to resign. So he got 305 and I got 205, something like that. The next day, in the morning, I got a call from Maariv, from Rosenfeld, who was the editor of Maariv, asking me to write for Maariv. Once, twice, 3 times, as many times as you like. And later that day, I got a call from Hidiot Achronot asking me to write. My friends were all in Maariv. That's how I became a columnist at Maariv and at Jerusalem Post 6 months later. 6 months later, I was in Maariv office and I met a member of the staff of the Jerusalem Post. What is his name? The man who started the Jerusalem Report. What is his name? You know?
Yeah, Goodman?
Yes,
Goodman.
And he said to me, why don't you write for the Jerusalem Post? So I said, I would write if they invited me.
surprised to attack was then?
So I went to see the editor. Oh, I got a call from the editor, Frankel. There were two editors there, and Frankel was very decent. And he said, we're not inviting you because we love your opinions, but we've had a lot of feedback. We had a lot of criticism from readers that about our one-sidedness.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to find, we'd like to have some balance in the news expressed in the paper. And I said to him, Mr. Frankel, we have one man to against all your distortions. He said, what distortions? I said, well, you would like to list them. So I said, let's leave that. He said, yes, are you prepared to write? And he said, you have freedom to write. Nobody will interfere with what you write. And they didn't. For 7 good years, they didn't interfere. And one day there was interference, so I walked out. 1 week when they didn't publish an article that I'd written. And I was given the grounds by a woman in the, one of the junior editors, whatever she was, that, I don't remember what excuse she gave, but anyway, I didn't take it.
So when did you stop writing for the Post?
I didn't stop writing for a few years. I started writing again. I think it was only when the new regime,
Mm-hmm.
the company that's now going out of business, was in Honecker.
Yeah.
Levy was the representative, was their chief executive, and there was a man with a beard, what was his name, who was the editor, and David Barilan was working for him. That's when I came back. I didn't come back. I left also. I left Maariv as well because I wanted to be free to write my book on Jabotinsky. I had to do a lot of traveling for that book, and I wanted to concentrate on it. You must remember that by this time, 1984, I was already 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I'd better concentrate on the Jabotinsky book because I might die any day. So I did. And then I didn't write every week when I came back. I wrote from time to time, but much more frequently than I do now. But then also, was it before that already? The editor, there was an editor before the man with the beard. What's his name? Zev Golan.
Yeah.
Zev Golan's time. I also stopped because there also an article I did was not printed. And I went to see the woman who was in charge of this, Judy Montague. She still works at the paper. And she said the article I did was titled Paris in Cloud Cuckoo Land, which I think is a factual statement.
Yes.
And she said I wasn't comfortable with it. So I said, look, I'm going to try to make you comfortable. But they didn't print it, so I walked out. And oh yes, the man with the beard resigned or was replaced by David Barilan. And then David Barilan went to work for Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out of the paper again. So I really don't remember all the details, but a very funny thing happened. One day, probably now it's 5 years ago, I get a phone call from the news editor of Post. Sorry to tell me that a friend of mine has died. Harry Hurwitz.
I remember that. I remember the story. I remember.
You remember the story?
Yeah, I remember the article.
Yeah. And so he wanted an obituary from me. I was shocked, but I wrote an obituary from him. It was duly published the next day. And then I got a phone call from Harry Hurwitz. And so, upon that, I had a new telephone call from the editor. Barak was still editor. And he apologized, they misled me, they didn't know, he didn't know, he had nothing to do with it. And as I put it, he wasn't here, so he was in Turkey. So I said, no, well, what can you do? No harm has been done. So I said, but let's show one thing. In order that Shmuel Katz should write for the Jerusalem Post, somebody has to die. And he denied all knowledge of what had happened. That an article had not been published.
You walked out of the Post once or twice? There was how many the article that wasn't published it was a one-time occurrence or a two-time occurrence that they didn't publish an article?
Twice.
Twice. Okay. That's what I thought I understood. Okay.
It happened once. Well, both times it happened in the period of Barak's editorship. But the second time it was once.
No, Barak wasn't there in the 80s. Barak wasn't there in 84.
Huh?
Barak wasn't there in 84.
He wasn't the editor when?
In 1984?
No, it was before Barak. No, that had happened. An article wasn't published. Who was responsible? I don't remember now. The second time Montague was responsible, she was responsible for the time of Barak. Barak said he didn't know about it. So I said, if you didn't know about it, then you're not to blame for the fact that I'm not writing, so I'll start writing again. What could he say? But I didn't intend to write every week, because by this time I wasn't 70 anymore. I was probably 80 already. Right.
So today you still write occasionally for the Post. You write for the Post today, occasionally?
Yes, I write occasionally, as you see. The point is that since the Holligers took over up to now, the policy has been much more closer to my heart. It's not as good now as it was a little while ago. You see, regular writers there are very wishy-washy on politics, and they would all give up settlements for peace. But it's not like it used to be, strong left-wing. The funny thing is that most of the letters that get published, if you read them, are all on the side of the fence. So I think that it's a warning to editors there. However,
Caroline, do you read Caroline Glick's column?
Yeah, Caroline Glick.
She's great.
Yes.
Do you have any contact with her? Do you?
No, also Freund is good. There's a writer named Freund.
I don't recall. I don't recall. I'm sure there is. I just don't.
No, but he's good. It's all right. No, it's a 50-50 thing. The others also don't go overboard. The others, like Zev Golan, for example, who's been writing for the Post for 100 years.
Yes.
But he's also toned down. He used to be very left-wing.
I remember.
No, he's not. All right, he writes well, and what he writes usually makes sense. No, So it's possible for me, I can comfortably write there. And then the editor who handles this, who handles the editorial, what they call themselves, the editorial page articles. It's a category that I write for, actually. As far as I can see, he's on our side of the fence. But from his attitude to my articles, I expect every time I say to myself, if they don't like it, they won't publish it. My impression is that he still treats me as being a regular columnist, rather a proper columnist, simply not regular as far as time is concerned. That I have to be published. But I think that's also because he's on my side of the fence. That's my impression. So
how do you define yourself professionally today?
What's that?
How do you define yourself professionally today? If I had to list you as having a job today, what would your job definition be?
Today?
Yeah.
I have no job. I'm a freelancer.
Okay.
I still write when I feel like it. I don't undertake to write. And I don't write regularly. It works out about an article a month, actually, up to now. In fact, now there are 3 articles I want to write. And I started one, and I hope I'll finish. It takes me longer to write these days. I haven't got the strength to finish an article at one go. And I'm a slow writer.
Do you have last time I was here before I left, we essentially made put together essentially a list of all the books that you've published. Do you have a list of all the books with the dates that they came out in order, or there isn't such a list?
I think I can tell you that. The dates of fire. Do you want to know the languages?
English and whatever is not in. No, the answer is no. English and whatever is not in English and Hebrew. That's all.
I don't think there's anything not in English. Days of Fire in 1966.
Okay.
Battleground, 1973. Hollow Peace, I think, is 1982. Battle Truth, I think, is the same year, 1982 or 3. I'll correct it in a moment. And Aronson.
That's the one that's in Hebrew.
It's not been published yet.
But that's in Hebrew. So when did that come out in Hebrew? Okay.
I think it's 2000.
And the Lone Wolf was?
Lone Wolf was 1996.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
Those are the books. Then I have part of a book, a contributor to a book called The Solution to the Palestinian Problem, published by Van Leer. I had an essay there, which was the longest in the collection. It's called There Is No Solution to the Palestinian Problem.
But you must have had a lot of essays published over the years. You must have had a lot of essays published over the years. I mean, that wasn't a book per se, that was an essay in a book. I'm not going to bother listing that.
It will be this year. It should be out already, the book on Jabotinsky by the Ben Gurion University. It should have been out in 2003.
They're publishing that as a separate book? What's that called?
No, it'll be about 10 contributors, I think.
Excuse me?
It'll be about 10 contributors.
In a book, all together in one book. What's the name of your article? Well, I'm going to limit this one to the books.
ז'בוטינסקי, גדוד העברי וראשית ההגנה.